Soundtrack.
God bless, we're breaking these runs. Life too short to play it on speed run. Only get one, no option to rerun. Where Babylon goes, too high to reach some. Down to earth, stay grinding when storms come. Rat race, only one to run from. Better say cheese when saying split in the funds. Living in the moment, I ain't worried about none. I'm straight chillin'. Back against the wall, too acquainted with the feeling. Like I lost the mark, find a way if I'm willing. Only fear God, not spreading this lost children. Price on my head, exported a few trillion. Doing side missions whenever I'm feeling. I'm built different, cruise with no ceiling.
How's everybody doing today? Welcome to the LD show, Lewis and Dennis.
What's up, guys?
We want to invite you all to come and see our podcast. It's been a long time coming, right?
Oh, it's been months. It's been, it's almost been a year since since we conceived it or since we started talking about it. And now it's like actually happening and it's unbelievable.
Yeah. From a seed to paper to, hey, we forgot about it to like, hey, like that butt, like that fire. And we're here. We're finally here. God willing, we were doing great.
It's crazy.
Thank you, God, because, it has been a long time coming.
Yeah. Thank you for all the paths and all the doors that have been open for us to get to this moment. And we just can't be more grateful or more blessed. And
absolutely, 100%. So tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, Lewis.
I think a lot of the main or beginning viewers kind of know me from high school, or they know us. We grew up in South Florida, a city called Homestead, Florida. We went to high school here. I grew up here, and I went to school after high school. I went to school to be a film director, producer. And I'm currently in the film industry as like motion pictures, televisions, commercials, anything that's, down here in the South Florida area. And, things like that. That's what I currently do. That's what I love. That's where, my heart is at.
Yeah, your passion, right? We all have our passions.
Yeah. And we know that, throughout the rest of the episodes, we'll talk a little bit more about who we are and what we do
and our experiences throughout this, right?
Like crazy,
Because we all have our bumps in the road, right?
Oh yeah.
Same. Born and raised in Miami, Hialeah, Richmond Heights, Homestead. Finished off in Homestead. I really love my Homestead community. Whoop, Homestead.
Yeah.
I've developed a lot throughout my years, from high school to joining the military, having my experiences, ups and downs, but it's brought me to where I'm at today. I have a vast of knowledge, and opinions and experiences that I hope to share with everyone on the show. As we go through all, these episodes and throughout this year, and hopefully throughout our lifetime, we'll be able to touch and move people into the roads. Those who don't know, we can educate, right? The whole point of this show is for us, but not only for us, but for others. And hopefully we can help others, and we can also have fun with this, right?
Yeah. I think that the point of the show, the reason why we're doing it is because we want to be able to share our experiences. We want to be able to share our knowledge and wisdom, at least to this point of our life, that has been shared with us, or things that's helped us, things that has motivated us. And I know that one way or another, it can help a lot of other people. And, at the same time, I feel that we have a message to give. And that's not just like, I have this message. It's more like it's, as a spiritual being, like as spiritual people, I feel that we live that message. And like, that's what I mean about like our experiences, those things that we're going to talk about, like our morals and principles and how we feel about our lives. And like, in general, like that's our message, as in one big, thing that we cover.
But, so since we're already on the topic, right? So what do you feel that was your hardest moment, right? Getting here, right? Like, I know your story, right? So I know your story, but the audience doesn't, right? So, we all had a path, right? And the path brought us to exactly where we're at today. But what was one of the hardest moments, to realize I'm like, okay, I'm on this path. I'm gonna go left. I'm gonna go right. I'm gonna go straight. I'm just gonna hold. Like, but what got you here? But what was the hardest moment, right?
Here to the podcast or here in my life?
Let's just say both.
Dang, I feel like that's
Hey,
a loaded
hey,
question, but
hammer.
first question of the show is like, let me know, like, what has made you who you are? Like, wow.
I got you.
Um, to not get too specific, too quick, and because if I do, I'll be talking for the next 10 hours. But I think in general, what has got me to being who I am right now, was a combination of many experiences of my life, many good experiences and many hard experiences. But in general, it was the good experiences that I got that came out of the hard experiences and the people who were there for me and the things that I learned in those moments. It's very hard to grow and it's very hard to like learn when you are not going through anything that can transform you to for you to have to change or for you to better yourself, you know. It's like when you're having a good time like watching a movie, right? Or you're going out and like having a great time with your family and you're socializing. The good days, the good old days we call, there's really not a lot of moments in your life there
Mhm.
that transform you, that make you realize things, that make you like um want to change for the better. Like you if you live a lot of those moments, I think you're missing opportunities. Though I mean those are great moments, don't get me wrong. But you're
Good and bad,
missing,
right?
yeah, but those part of your lives are almost like the good parts, some good parts that you live after you live in those moments. But I think that the things that make you are the ones where you learn, you realize, you recognize, and you're like wow, like you see life in a different way, with a different mentality, and you always end up being grateful for them because before those moments and those experiences your mind was kind of like in a blur and you didn't understand. And one of my favorite quotes from the Bible is that you don't know why I'm doing this now, but later you will understand, you know? And it's something where, like, when Jesus said that, he knew exactly uh, what he was saying, and he knew that they were going to recognize one day. Well, that's kind of like life. Like, we don't know why it's happening, but we will find out. And it's that moment where you find out, where you're like,
You're
oh
like light
wow,
bulb,
yeah,
bing,
yeah, the light
bing.
bulb,
This is why this happened.
and those moments stick with you for the rest of your life.
And I
Those light bulb
and
moments,
that's and I do I agree with you 100%,
you know.
because I've gone through those moments. I've had those spur of lights, right?
Yeah,
Bing. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I went through this instead of this, because now I'm here and I
yeah,
have the capability, the knowledge. Maybe I should have been patient. And I'm
yeah,
glad I was patient. I'm glad he put me in my lane, right? He like, hey, get back in your lane. And I'm
yeah,
so, because I see it now that I'm older and I have my children. So I take a step back and I'm like, all right, this is why he did this, right? This is part of the grand plan, not my plan, his plan.
yeah,
So I'm like, okay, that's why I went through this, because now I'm ready for this, right?
yeah.
So
I think that's the difference between like life and God, or life and like it's like we have these things about like what we want. We want our lives to turn out like this.
it's
We
it's,
want
it's
this. We
almost
want
what we
that.
want, right?
But it always ends up being, what do you need? And those are the things that do happen through our lives and have happened through our lives. And those what we needed, we got, and that's how we end. That's how we are who we are, because we got what we needed, not just what we wanted. And we're always grateful for that. And we have to move forward in life like that. Like, it's like, all right, I know this is what I want, but God knows what we need. And we'll realize it throughout life for the rest of our lives. It's like he always gives us what we need. and we need to have trust in that, that it's gonna be okay, that I'm gonna take care of you. You're always gonna have what you need,
Yeah,
you know?
and it's always what we need, not what we want, right?
Exactly.
I
That's what
know.
I'm
I know. At
saying.
times there are things that
Yeah.
we want that we should
Yeah.
have, right?
Yeah.
But it's what we need, right? What
Yeah.
sustains us, right?
Yeah.
If it's knowledge or if it's food, even if it's spiritual food, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, not to cut you off,
no, go for
but
it.
like, what about you? Like, tell us in a few
Oh.
words on like,
I could go down
yeah,
my bumpy roads, my
that's what I'm
hills, my
saying.
mountains,
But like,
but
in few words, like, how'd you get here to this point, to who you are? Not so much the podcast, but like the person we're hearing speak. Like, who is that person? How did he become who he is?
so I know you know most of my story, right? So basically, we're all growing up, no matter where you're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, we're not mature yet, especially as men. We don't mature until later on in life. But, you know, I decided to join the military, as you may know. And I think it was that instilled the manhood in me, the responsibility, and other things that we'll talk about throughout other episodes that put me on this path, of being responsible, being mature, and knowing what's right and what's wrong. Because I have gone through a lot of bumps in the road. I have gone through many, many darkness, many, many lights, and it's brought me to where I'm at. And I'm at no point in time that I'm saying perfect. I am not perfect. I am the least perfect person in the world, and just like everyone else, I am a sinner. And thank God in Jesus that because of Him, I am still saved. Right. Um, but I do believe that the military has instilled that manhood in me, right? Because I think if it wasn't for that and certain things that I've gone through in my life, both spiritually, both in my career, through my family, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Because I went through a lot of rough patches, and a lot of them I wish I wouldn't have gone through, but maybe God did that for a reason, and it's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
Because I've had a lot of friends who are still in those rough patches,
Yeah.
who are still going down the mountain that haven't been able to get back up.
Yeah.
And I'm still there for them, God willing that He still provides for me, so I can provide for them both spiritually, knowledge,
Yeah.
because it does hurt when you're down at the bottom,
Yeah.
and that's where you always hear the saying, give a hand up. It's hard. The climb up is hard.
Yeah.
You should be that person that gives a hand. But it's been a long journey, and I'm hoping that the journey continues, and God's by my side. God willing, everything goes great, and everything is always to God's will.
Yeah. No, amen to that. I
Amen.
definitely understand that. I definitely understand where you're coming from. Like, for me, I did want to join the military when I was younger.
I remember.
Yeah.
You want to be a Marine?
Yeah, it was either the military, because I was always really good at all that stuff. I was an athlete when I was young. I was really good at that stuff. And then so it was second nature for me to be in the military. I used to be a police explorer, and I was like really good at everything that we did, everything we got, the boot camp. I was like in a 6-month academy, and like I was really in shape, and we did all kinds of stuff like ranges. We did all types of military stuff. I loved it. I was in love with it. But I think that once I went to college, it was more like an intellectual understanding of like, all right, career wise, what do I want to do? What do I need to do? Because I love the military, but I wasn't thinking about it as a career. I was thinking about it almost like a sport, as in like, oh, I think it'll be fun, like going through all that, jumping out of airplanes, all that stuff. I didn't, really, I was young, so I decided. I remember working with a couple people in the military when I was younger, and I would ask them, hey, I'm about to graduate. What do you think? Should I join the military or should I go to college? And they would always say, like, maybe because they were retired already, they would always say, look, I spoke to a couple of them. They would always be like, look, if you have an opportunity to go to college, go to college. If you don't like college, in a year or two, you're still young, you're 22, 23 years old, you can join the military after that. You still, be ready to go. And I always thought of that. I was like, yeah, you're right, and when I started college, I was thinking about becoming an attorney. Well, so I started with my pre-law classes and stuff like that. But within the journey of being starting off college, I changed to being a director, and that's a long story in itself.
Oh, there'll be an episode for that one.
Yeah. But once I got my mind on like that's what I wanted to do, I wanted to make movies, I wanted to become a director. I kind of never looked back after that, and it's been 20 plus years or longer of like when I put my mind to something, that's what I went for, and that's what. So going back to where I started, why I started this was I didn't join the military, but for me, what made me become a man, or what I believe a real man is my spiritual journey with God. Like he's the one who taught me like what it is to be a man. And there's been a lot of men in my life who were also um who also learned what it is to be men from Christ. And then I got, the other version of like non-Christ men. I grew up with that, like seeing that. So as I was growing up, I got most of that. And then when I got older, around that time of like military, no military, college, go to college, starting college, within that time, I got really good role models. I got really good mentors who taught me like, this is a life without Christ. This is a life with Christ, and like, I think it was like towards the end of my high school, yeah, where like I started transforming. I started changing. I started seeing and understanding like this is what it is to be a real man. When something happens to you, this is how you should react. This is things like that. And since then, I've learned so many more times. I've transformed so many more times. Like you keep growing, you keep learning. Every certain amount of years, you're completely someone new. I remember being like 25, thinking like you're at the pinnacle of who you are as a man.
Remember prime, right?
Mentally. And then at 30, you're like, dang, at 25, you ain't know nothing. And it keeps happening. Like when you hit 30, you think like, oh, like I'm there. I lived 10 years at my 20s. Like I'm there. And then when you hit 35, you're like, man, the 30-year-old Louis, he doesn't know nothing. He's a baby. Because you keep like updating and you keep becoming better and things like that. And we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to get better. Now, the best thing about growing and understanding more and more is that you understand that you're supposed to change. You understand that you want to change. You embrace it, that you want to learn more. You want to learn from your mistakes even more. And you can forward see them. You can see them coming. You can see that these things, these triggers or these problems are coming, and then you're like, all right, like I know how to deal with them now. And you even catch yourself in the moment going, man, I remember how this used to affect me, but it doesn't affect me anymore. And the things that where you do make mistakes or you do run in situations where you never had before, like in the moment, you're like, all right, I know how I dealt with this before. Like, this is the best thing that I can do. I can learn from this. I can try to be a better person, this and that. And back then, you were just like in a bliss of like, I don't even know what to do, this and that. Now, it's more like, all right, Louis, like, you know what to do. This is all right. Everything you've learned. One thing
at a time.
Yeah, you connect with God, you pray, this and that. And like, what you got to do, what you're supposed to do. And there's no excuses. You don't have, that's what I'm trying to say. There's no more excuses.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
If we would have known that when we were younger, right?
Yeah.
18, 19, 20s.
That's what I mean.
Even early 30s, right?
That's what I mean. And like at this age.
But experience gets us there, right?
Yeah. At this age, when you make a mistake, and like at this age when like you're like, oh man, I messed up. You don't make excuses for yourself. Like, it's like, all right, what can I do to make this better? What can I do for me to become the man I need to be? And you just take it on and you start. There's no like, it'll come. Like, nah, like, here we go. Like, this is who you are. This is who you say you are. You talk the talk. It's time to walk the walk. and that's just how it is. That's what I love about at least everything that we've learned and we've experienced within our times. That like even when you don't want to walk the walk, you're like, I don't want to hear no excuses. So it's like I like no,
No,
like
yeah.
you know, because you already know yourself. You get to the point where you already know yourself so much that you don't have excuses on the why, blah blah blah. It's like, all right, let's do this. Move forward. Keep going.
And you know what's crazy nowadays? People attack that. Oh, that manlyhood. Oh, that manlyhood. Oh, you believe that that's masculine. You believe that that godliness, that maturity. They attack it nowadays, and that's why I see a lot of young men lost because they feel that, oh, am I doing it the right way? Society's telling me. I'm like, forget society. You know, what are your morals? What have you been built by your parents, right? Both by your parents, by your family, and by spiritually. You know, and I am a true believer that, you know, God is our center. You know, He is our core. And to be a man, God tells us how to be a man. There's
Yeah.
entire guide for that in the Bible. And it sucks that nowadays society will attack that. And that's why we don't have the men that we did in the past. And the young men now, we're failing them. And we need to bring that back. And I feel like it's not fair for them.
Yeah. I think that like a lot of the stuff like some people it depends on like your point of view of the world, because a lot of people um like those who like, because I've met a lot of people who that you're talking about that attack manhood and stuff like that. The thing is that a lot of people have had bad experiences with men who don't know how to deal with their emotions and don't, so they believe like that man believes that that's the right way to do it. So that person who's got that bad experience believes, and they have several experiences like that. Oh, all these guys say that that's how men act, or that's the machismo and stuff like that. So it must be that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So those people start going against that type of manhood, right? It's like a generic manhood, not understanding that that is not the real manhood that God wants it to be. That's almost like the animalistic, the instinctual manhood, you know, and that is not the correct way. But if those people who are against it, if they knew the benefits and the good stuff that comes out from the real manhood, from the godly manhood, from the real principles, they would be like, oh, okay, I never really got that experience. I got the other experience, which we shouldn't even call manhood, because it's not. It's more like boyhood. It's more like grown men that are still childrenhood, because a real man is not going to act like that, or it's not going to be like that, you know? And that's one of the things I know what you're trying to say. Like, a lot of these young kids are not getting the experience that they need from real men, or I'm not going to say real men, but from real like morals and principles of how men are supposed to act. They're not getting the role models. They're not getting those experiences that they need,
No, yeah,
you know?
because young men and children, they're always watching, right? And they're like
Watching,
sponges,
learning.
and they're like,
Yep.
okay, it's working for him, or
Yeah.
oh, look what he does. Let me be like him, right?
Yeah.
And we have those bad role models, bad mentors out there. Even if you're not their mentor or role model,
Yeah.
they're looking at you and they're mimicking you, and they're thinking, oh, that's what a man should be. But they need to really, we as men need to really start taking up and saying, hey, that's wrong, or hey, just because I'm nice, you know, doesn't mean that I don't have rough edges. You know, don't think you're gonna take advantage of me. But remember that a man is godly. A man has peace. A man knows how to give peace. He knows how to be gentle, but also knows how to take up arms, right, to protect those around him. Even if it's just verbally, even if it's just, hey, let me feed this person, or hey, let me give this person a hug. Let me mentor this person. He's going through something.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of that is not going on. We may hear about it here and there, but it's not really going on in society nowadays. It is not.
Yeah. I mean, I think like, without going more far into our conversation, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think that, we should also let the audience know on like what this podcast is going to be about. I believe that this podcast, well, I believe this podcast is going to be about several different topics. We're going to cover, it's an open platform, and we're going to not specifically just cover one thing, but we're going to talk about a lot of different things. It could be from like current events, it could be from experiences and advice. We could talk about like
Mental health.
mental health crisis. We could talk about, we could have fun and talk about sports, conspiracy theories, uh, things that we heard, like stories and things like that. But it's pretty much like we're like I said, we want to be free to be able to just speak about, I mean, anything that we think that it could either like help somebody or like entertain somebody, or
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think that um we'll be back and forth with a lot of different things, and like, one episode will bring somebody on that talks about like the medical field, and another episode will bring somebody on who talks about sports. Another episode will bring somebody on that will talk about the military and something specific about it. We'll bring maybe some politicians in, or we'll bring some business people, some florist, or we'll things like that. I know that in the comments, we'll read the comments. If you guys have any ideas, we're always open to suggestions about any ideas or any kind of like hey, pointers and things like that you guys would like to hear about, or things like that. That's something we're always open.
No, yeah, we're open to any ideas, and we will be talking about almost every topic, and anything that can help our community, right?
Yeah.
Both near and far.
Yeah.
Um,
And remember, like, most of the stuff that we talk about, we're talking about our experience.
Mhm.
We're talking about our own personal experience.
and we're going to be giving our opinion. So,
our own personal experiences and our own personal opinions. And I'm speaking for myself. My opinion, um, it's something where it doesn't necessarily have to be factual. It's just how I see the world and how I see things. And at the same time, my opinion can change. I'm not, and I'm not talking about like my principles or morals. I'm talking about like my opinion on like things that like current events or something like that, where it's kind of like, I can give you an opinion like this is what I think today. And like 30 episodes from now, I'm like, you know what? Nah, I don't think that was right. Not to sound like I'm flip floppy, but sometimes, you think one way and then you get more information later on in between, and you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. And that's something that I think I do like about myself, that I'm able to adapt as I'm getting information. I'm able to see things from a different point of view than just my point of view, like be sympathetic or empathetic from someone else's point of view when I get more information. Sometimes we see like we see it one way and we're like, all right, that's how I think it is. And then you hear like, no, but like this is what happened to that person, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that. And then now my opinion might be a little different. It might just be like, all right, well, now I don't feel like that. Now I'm kind of neutral, or like now, dang, I feel bad for that person. You know what I mean? Because you you never know the whole story, and you only have your version of the story. And then when you hear something you don't know, you're like, oh, I didn't know that. So that's what I mean about. But again, we're gonna be talking about a lot of things, and just wanted to let you guys know that it's not like everything I say I'm dropping facts. We will be incorrect about some stuff. Whatever we think that, oh, you guys need to get the right information, we'll pull out our phones and like,
yeah, we'll try our best to
or
give you
we'll
the
come back the
best.
next episode
Yep.
if we do make a mistake on like numbers or like a fact that maybe we got and we thought it was a fact because everybody says like this is a fact, like all the media and this and that, and then it changes. We'll come back and be like, no, you know what? This is what we thought. Like now, this is what it is. It's like,
No,
things
feel
like
free to
that.
call
Yeah.
us out. Go in the comments, write it down.
Yeah.
Hey, no, it's this. If it's a number,
Yeah.
or if it's, hey, you're missing out on this. Did you see this video? Did you see a new
Yeah.
release? We're gonna try to keep up to date on everything the
could
best as
only-
we can. You know,
yeah.
we're humans. We're not computers. Even though our brains do work like computers, but AI is working faster than us now. I don't know
Yeah.
if you noticed that, right? So go ahead and put it in the comments. Be like, hey, no, look, this was released. This is a new data. And hey, thank you very much for helping out. You know,
I mean, we could only.
this
go
is
by
our
what
show
we
as
know.
much as it is yours. You know, you're
Yeah.
watching us. You know,
Yeah.
and so, but I'm very grateful that you guys are all on today. You know, this is our first episode, and we hope you keep
How
on watching
excited
us.
are you?
Oh man, I'm hyped up. I've been hyped up since since October, right? I've been hyped up. You know, gathering all the equipment, trying to learn this whole new world, right? Because I know you come from this already, but this
I
is
do.
all new to me, right?
I do, but it's I've never podcasted before. I've never set up a podcast studio. I never went from like point A to point Z.
I think we're on like T still, right? We're still trying to head to Z.
We're like on E right now. We have so much more to learn.
No, absolutely.
You know, episode 100, we were babies in the
Yeah,
first
be like,
episode.
"Hey,
What were we
look."
saying?
Hey, look, the studio changed. But hey, but that's how it goes, right?
Yeah.
Everything evolves, and it has to evolve. You know, if you want something to get better, it evolves.
Yeah.
If you stay stagnant and you keep it the same, you're not moving along.
Yeah, of course. And you always want to improve, and
No.
you're always looking for ways to grow, you know, and like, you know, we're going to come up with new ideas. We might start doing things on the show where like, hey, you know, start going live. We don't even know how to start that
Yeah,
yet.
have a
you know?
buzzer that goes. "Arr."
Yeah, you know, things like that. You know, we've heard of a lot of things people do on other podcasts, and you know, we'll explore into that world. You know, we don't really know yet, but we're excited. We're excited about everything that we're just doing. That and at the same time, you know, we just want to thank everybody, you know, that helped us out, and here we go. You know,
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
welcome to the
Yeah,
show.
welcome to the show.
And just you know, bear in mind that you're going through this journey with us. You're going through this journey with us. You know, you'll hear an episode and we're talking like all sports, and maybe within that episode we'll jump into like Egyptian history, and then the next episode we're talking about like the military, and then
Politics.
yeah, 15 minutes into that episode, we're talking about like something that happened in California with the avocados. You know, we're just,
Egg prices.
you know,
Hey, wait. Before we continue, let me tell you, I just got back from a trip, right?
yeah,
And I'm like, you know what? Let me do some research here.
Yeah.
You know, Florida eggs were like $10 just for 12, right? So I'm like, I was in Chicago, and I'm like, you know what? I'm in the store. Let me check this out. I walk in the store, and I'm like, wait, for $3.95 for 12? Why is it $10 in Miami? So I get to
No
California, and I go to most of you know who've been to California or lived there. It's
Yeah.
called HEB, right?
yeah. I
And
love HEB.
so I walk into HEB, and I'm there. You know, I'm like, you know what? Let me look at the eggs. $3.95 for 18. I'm like, wait.
Wait,
What's going on? Like, so I was in Chicago. 4 days later, I'm in California. They're about a few cents off, but in Miami, they're anywhere between $9 to $10 for 12. I'm like, this does not make any sense. I'm like, I feel like we're being lied to.
Well, I think no. I also think that would have to be logistics, because in Chicago you have a lot of like farming world around in the Illinois area, and in Texas and California it's kind of the same. But down here you don't have too many like chicken farms. We don't have like cattle farms, stuff like that. We have more like palm tree farms, plant farms, things like that.
But we're one of the big importers and exporters, right, of goods here in South Florida. We have one of the biggest ports, and so does Orlando.
We do have
I'm
a
sorry,
port.
so does St. Petersburg and Tampa,
Yeah.
right?
I wouldn't know. I don't have an idea if we eat our own eggs or if we import eggs from another country. You know, I've never looked at like made in like Mexico eggs or things like that.
Well, you-
like I've never looked at that. Like where are these
You
eggs
open
from?
up the carton and it has the Mexico flag on there.
No, I no. It was the thing is that I kind of assumed that our eggs are from
Come from the
here.
United States, right? Because they're fresh. that way,
Yeah.
right?
No, I never really thought of it like, you know, that I'm getting eggs from like another country. Like I know that fruits and stuff like that, you know, like avocados and peaches and things like that. But I always, I guess, subconsciously thought our eggs are from our farms.
And what was crazy is that when I was in HEB, there was no price. There was maybe a 20 cents difference between the free range and the regular.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on here? Like,
Yeah.
and I know everything's about supply and demand, but
Yeah.
come on, like $5 more. Like
Yeah,
that
I
makes no
don't know.
sense.
I don't know, man. I
If
mean, I
some of
know
your
that
politicians out there, state of Florida, hey, we need your help, man. We're paying too much for eggs.
I I don't think it I don't think it would be a politician thing, because it their paths. I look. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think that their paths and like writing laws and like pushing things through the houses and stuff will take too long. You're talking like months apart. You're talking like years apart for things to change like that. But our egg prices would have to do with the businesses, the scarcity of the things that they need, like the actual farm,
No,
to
yeah.
bring down prices. I think it's more about like the businesses themselves. Like, how can we help them alleviate the costs from them to bring down prices? I think if politics will be involved, it'll be like helping them and
Well,
like,
when I meant politician is
yeah,
more like we're selling these lands that used to be farmed to these developers, right?
yeah,
Like we have all these companies just building micro towns, communities where farms used to be at, because the farmers are like, it's no longer an investment anymore to farm, so let's just sell our land to these
yeah,
developers. So
yeah,
if you go into Homestead, you go into West Homestead, you see land that used to be farms. Now you see townhomes, you see half an acre homes, and it makes no sense. This used to be an agriculture
yeah,
town. And then I understand we do have to evolve, we do have to move on, but don't get rid of all your agricultural land. We live off this land.
yeah. I mean, it also depends on like talking about the farms and farmers on like why are they, I don't know the correct answer on like why are they being phased out? Are they moving? Are they like going to another state? Are they retiring? It's more people, so the farm is still going on. Like, it's not like back then more eggs were sold than now. It's the same amount of eggs or even more now because there's more people. But where's this where's this chicken farms happening at? Maybe it's going overseas, like you were saying, it's coming through the ports. So if it's coming from overseas, we don't need the farms here, but we could see that the prices are what's happening with the prices. I know that it'll be like a whole episode on like if we find out what's happening with the eggs and stuff like that. I know that there's plenty of documentaries out there talking about it. But these developers on how they're coming up and what they're doing. I mean, every business is open, free business to do business however they want legally. You know what I mean? And if there's people that need these houses, for them, it's a blessing. You know what I mean? For us, it might not be. It's like, oh, this and that was farmland. But for someone else, that's a home. That's, someone's family. It's like, oh, it's a blessing. Thank you for building more houses for us. You know what I mean? So we really don't know about that. That's more of like an enterprise thing. That's more of a business part. But it's the thing about us is we're talking about like the eggs. You were saying the difference between the eggs in another state and the
Yeah.
eggs here is to like who needs the help? The farmer, the grain company who is now charging 3 times more for the grain, and now that's why the farmer's charging 3 times more for the eggs. Like they need to figure out like what is happening, because I always thought like during the pandemic, right? During the pandemic, I thought, okay, there's going to be a short supply on a lot of things because there's a lot of people who aren't going to go to work. And I kept my eye on prices at the grocery store. They really didn't change. And I'm like, okay, they really didn't change. Eggs were not, eggs right now are 3 times higher than they were in the pandemic. And I'm like, wait, what's happening?
And I
I
know
know
they're
that there's a
saying
blue,
they're saying bird flu.
they're saying bird flu.
Yeah.
All right. So if that's the case, right? If it is a bird flu thing and it's happening, this and that, then we should slowly but surely we should start seeing a decrease in egg prices. The problem is it's not just egg prices; it's the whole store. You know what I mean? It's all
It's
the
a trickle
products.
effect, yeah, for
So
profits.
yeah, so it's all the stores, it's all the businesses. I thought that was supposed to, and it was going to happen during the pandemic, because I bought a lot of groceries during the pandemic. We were at home, so all we did was buy food and eat, and I kept my eye on them. And there's videos out there of people who like also had like Walmart receipts during the pandemic, and prices now have tripled since then. And it's
Mhm.
like the short supply should have been then. Like now prices in general for everything, for cars, for everything has jumped to not an inflation rise, not just like, oh, it's gone up 3% every year like it always does. No, it's astronomically grown, and all the businesses are saying, pointing back at each other. They're like all pointing at each other. Will you raise the prices? Will you
Yeah,
raise?
yeah.
It's like a domino effect.
Grocery store is gonna blame it on the truck drivers.
Yeah, and
truck
it's
drivers
going
on the fuel.
And everybody's
Yeah,
blaming
yeah,
it on
yeah.
each other. Like, well, I brought my prices up because you brought your prices up. And then you go, well, I brought my prices up because you brought your prices up. And it keeps going. And right now they haven't figured out, all right, everybody's pointing at each other. Where is the origin? Like, where's the domino effect where I can start? If you bring down your prices, then you could bring down your prices and start the chain reaction back down where everything it's a regular inflation increase. Right now, it's not an inflation increase. Right now, we're seeing prices that we should have saw during the pandemic, like, milk this much and butter this much. And we all would be like, of course, because there's millions of people who aren't going to work. So there's a lot less, there's a scarcity of everything. But we didn't see that.
No,
We're
didn't.
seeing it now. We're
absolutely.
seeing it years later. And like, I don't know. I think that something's going on. And like when the businesses, and maybe it started overseas where like everything that was coming overseas was high price. So everybody here was like, all right, we got to raise our prices too.
Yep.
And it just, but it's happening on a global level. It's not just the United States, you
But
know.
my thing also, like,
How do you
all
fix that?
So,
Like-
we got bird flu in the United States. The chickens. I'm like, why is it only happening here? You don't hear about.
Well, it's containment. It's kind of like
No, and absolutely,
the mad cow
it's
disease,
just
they
like they
contain it.
said, they killed off a lot of
Yeah.
chickens, right? A lot of egg bearing chickens. But usually, when you see something like that,
Yeah.
you see it traveling not only in the United States, it spreads, and they do try to contain it.
But
But you don't hear it at all anywhere else.
I think at the same time, man, I don't watch like news from other countries, so I don't know what the prices in Honduras eggs are. They could
I'm
be
sure there's sense.
like, they could be 3 times as high also, but I don't get the information. Like, I'm not looking like, has every other country also been affected? You know what I mean? Which maybe they are. Maybe they brought it from here. Maybe they got it first. You know what I mean? We only get the information that's told by us, and that's in everything.
So I did
know?
read where all these countries want to now they want to export their eggs to us.
Yeah.
So that means they're not having an egg shortage. They're not having an egg problem, right? And I know we're just talking about eggs, but it's not only eggs. There's other products up there that have gone up,
Yeah. The egg is just like,
Yeah, it's the main thing that's on the news right now, and everybody's going crazy. Oh, my eggs! I'm like, hey, just buy the powder ones, man. Add water and it's cheaper in the long run.
Difference.
Oh no, you can. But hey, you're still having eggs.
Yeah, when you're hungry. You're hungry.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Like
absolutely.
there's a saying that when you're hungry, you eat rocks.
Grind them up.
Yeah.
No,
But yeah, I mean, to go back to the subject on like things that we're gonna talk about in this episode, we're gonna cover a lot of things, and like, kind of like on this episode, you guys saw that
you've been seeing us jump back and forth from different ones just to give you a taste of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and that's something that we enjoy doing as friends, and that's something where like, we figured like, why don't we, let the people know what we're thinking, because a lot of even advice to each other, we help each other all the time, and like we help our other friends, and our other friends give us advice too, and it's something where like, it's life. And right now we're like capturing the moment of life. We're capturing those moments. We're capturing those moments, those speeches, those experiences. And it's something that we believed should have been captured. And they're being recorded now, and they're being put out into the world, and that's something, I think that's a blessing. I think that is beautiful. I'm excited, and like I don't know. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I can tell by the big old grin on your face, right?
Nah, but you know me.
No, I got you. Yeah, I got you.
I'm
No,
excited,
and I know, and you're right, because there's times where we're out and about, we're having conversations. I'm like, man, I wish we had a camera in front of us.
Yeah, like
We're at the gym, we're working out, and we're like, oh man, I wish we were
we
recording
get
this.
deep into
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
or like
We get lost in all these conversations.
yeah, it's because a lot of things that come out within us, they weren't rehearsed, or we didn't even think of it, and we'll say it to each other, and we're like, oh wow, that's huge, that's deep, and it's not like we're like Socrates, we're like, we'll pull out a pen and paper and write it down, and we're gonna write it on notes, but this podcast is how we're gonna capture those moments and capture those sayings and those experiences, and years from now, somebody will come across this episode, and and like just listen to it, just hear it, and hear something like, yeah, that's right, like that's true, or have had. I'm sure a lot of people who have had the experiences we've had, they know exactly what we're talking about. That's something that I love about podcasts, or I always get from podcasts. Like when I'm listening to other people talk about podcasts, well, talk on a podcast when I'm driving or I'm at home and I'm listening to it, I'm learning so much. When I turned that podcast on, I didn't think I was going to be like, absorbing it in a way that it's like you're almost a part of that conversation. Like you're sitting in that room
Yeah,
and
because
you're
you're like,
listening.
oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Or, oh man, you know
Yeah.
what? He's right.
Yeah, and then like we go down, like we're like, oh, I'm gonna look that up, or I'm gonna research that, and I've learned so much from it. It's almost like you're honing in on someone else's conversation,
Yes.
and you're like, wow, like I didn't know that, or you learn so much from it. But yeah, man, that's pretty much in a pickle on like what our podcast is gonna be like, and
Yeah.
we're
And I'm glad you all
Do you
joined
have
us. I'm really glad that everybody who's watching, tell us what you think. Like us. Write what you
Oh,
think in the
yeah.
comments.
Before, like please subscribe to our channel. Please like our channel, and please spread it. Please push it out there. We want more and more people to experience this experience of the LD show, and like it's something we're gonna get more into like everything about our show and who we are. You'll start to learn more
No,
about
yeah,
our
yeah.
stories. This is just the beginning. This is
And like I said, you're
have
you're
so
much a
much-
part of this as we are.
yeah.
So go ahead, put your comments in, give us ideas,
Yeah.
and we'll give you your shout outs. And like I said, to our Homestead family, to our Homestead community, we love you. God bless
To
you.
our friends and family,
know,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And number one,
everything.
God, we thank you for this 100%,
and
right?
Thank 100%.
Because
and
we wouldn't be here without him.
and we appreciate you at least getting to this
Into
part
this-
of the
absolutely,
episode.
absolutely.
We really appreciate everything, and we're gonna continue to appreciate it and completely be grateful for this blessing that we got and this moment that we're
Mm-hmm.
have. But
And hopefully we see you guys on the next episode.
yeah, definitely.
Have a good one, guys.
Take care, guys.